Welcome to Tune In with Talya. This evening, I'd like to welcome a very special guest. Welcome, Katherine Whyte. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to my show.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to see you.
Yes, it's weird that we see each other this way nowadays, but it
Yeah.
I'm thankful for it anyways, right? It's
Yes,
better
it's
than letter writing.
right. I know. We've come a long way since letter writing this world.
Right?
Yes.
Totally.
So, I invited you on my show because I think you're an incredible artist, a beautiful singer, someone I've always admired, and I've been inspired by you for many years. We met back in the Juilliard days years ago,
Mhm.
and I remember the first time I heard you sing, I just was blown away. I got chills all over, and I thought, I have to know this
Yeah.
young lady, and I want to be friends with her. She's just a beautiful, beautiful singer and a beautiful person, I discovered. And so it's so nice that now, years later, we're on a little Zoom
This is awesome.
sesh.
Can we say how many years later, please?
We won't say. We will
No.
just. So, so those of you watching and don't know Catherine, I will tell you a little bit about her um, from her bio. So, Catherine Whyte has been performing for the last 15 years across North America, Europe, and Asia. Her career has included opera, concert work, and recitals. 3.5 years ago, she began the journey of teaching voice, which has been giving her a lot of self learning and joy over the past few years. She enjoys the challenge of helping different people who think and learn and react differently how to find great singing for themselves. A highlight of this year of quarantine was singing her first Fior di Ligi at Opera Grand Rapids. It was a great collaboration and delight. Off the stage, she loves to cook and bake and plays lots and lots of tennis.
Yeah.
And she totally got into the sourdough craze and loved it. And I know that because you've been posting your amazing looking breads.
Can I just tell you, it takes several days to make it work. And when you get a loaf of bread out of the oven and you've been working on it for 2 days and it actually rises, and you're like, oh, I'm a genius.
My creation, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I can see in your like in your little posts about it how proud you are.
I'm
I'd
totally
be proud too if I know how to make sourdough rise. I'm
yeah,
still working on making muffins rise, so.
right, right. Also, it's the most like old-fashioned way of making bread, right? It's not these little packets. It's this culture, you
I
know.
know.
I wish I could say I made the culture, but I did not.
Oh,
Someone
okay.
gave it to me. But
Somebody
that
gave you the
also is very
culture?
traditional.
Who gives you these cultures?
My neighbor,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Lucky
she made
you.
her own sourdough starter, and then she gave me some, and I've been baking with it since. But
Wow, nice neighbor.
I know,
Where
right?
are you right now, by the way?
I am in Riverdale, which
Oh,
is West Bronx, but it depends on who you talk to. I remember I was at a function with my husband before the when we actually were at functions,
oh yeah.
and I was talking to a guy, and he said he lived in the Bronx, and I was like, oh, I live in the Bronx too, and he said, oh, where do you live? And I said Riverdale, and he goes, that's not the Bronx, but I know what you mean. And I was like,
People don't think that's the Bronx,
no, but it is the Bronx.
but it is. But it's like the upper.
Right. It's like
Yes,
out of
yes,
the
yes.
Bronx, you know.
Yes. I love your braid. I think
Thank
we
you.
both like
Yeah, we
have done
channel
that
braids.
somehow.
Yeah. This is like my Elsa braid from
Yeah,
Frozen.
it's very Elsa-ish, but
Yeah.
like more like it says it's red and it's beautiful.
Yes, that's what we're going for. Red and beautiful.
So tell us a little bit about your start and where you grew up and how you first discovered your love of opera. Tell us about the beginnings
Hmm.
of your love.
I'm a Canadian from
Woohoo!
Toronto. It's a great time to claim Canadianness, except we never mind. We're not going to talk politics.
I'm half, just so you know.
Oh yes, that's why we're friends. Remember?
Yeah.
Um,
Just reminding
yeah.
you.
Born and raised in Toronto in Scarborough. Got into choral singing really early. Right? I was in undergraduate. Sorry, undergraduate. I was in grade school and high school that had really strong music programs. So I did a lot of choral singing, and I think that's sort of where you gain great musicianship is through doing choral musicianship work, and I played in the band and the blah blah blah.
Hmm.
I did a competition through my church when I was probably in grade nine. See, I say grade nine because I'm Canadian.
I know I'm
Uh,
used to it because that's what my mom would always say.
yes, okay, say you get it. Um, and I won the category I was in. And the woman who was adjudicating said, when you go back to your teacher, take blah, 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 take this information. And I said, oh, I don't have a teacher. And she was like, clutching her pearls, you don't have a teacher? You know? So at that point, my parents were like, oh, I guess we should get her a teacher. So that was when I was about 14. And studied with actually my grade school teacher, who also taught voice on the side and had a really great voice. And so I studied with her, and then fast forward a bunch of years, went to the University of Toronto. I was there for my undergraduate and my master's,
Nice.
um, and undergraduate in voice performance and master's in opera. And then I think for most of my life, I've just sort of stumbled into stuff,
Hmm.
without, and I think I'm really glad for something like Juilliard, as you know. Juilliard's Juilliard, right? But at the time, my teacher was like, oh, you should audition for Juilliard. And I was like, okay, I'll audition for Juilliard. And then when I got in, then you get in and you're like, oh, Juilliard, wow,
Welcome to the Juilliard School.
Exactly, right? So I think for me, not knowing was great because then there's less pressure. I work well under less pressure.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. And then did my artist diploma at Juilliard. But when I crossed the border on my immigration, I wasn't immigrating, on my getting into the country form, it said I was doing doctoral work. So
Oh,
do not have a doctorate, but according to the government, it was doctoral work. So I'll take it. There you go.
hey,
That's the closest I've gotten to a doctorate.
cool. Very nice. And then from school, how did you get started into your opera career? How did that take off?
Yeah, I guess I skipped opera. I'm my undergraduate was we went to the program where they only allowed you to do art song in recital work and that sort of stuff. So nobody did opera until they got into their masters.
Oh, wow.
You could get into opera chorus with the opera school because there was a separate opera school. But and in a way, I felt like in some ways that put me behind because I got less stage experience, and I think it did in some ways. But in other ways, I think it makes you a better musician to figure out how to tell a story with art song because the story is not as straightforward. You
Right.
have to take a poem and you have to give it heart, you have to give it soul, you have to give it yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
And I think that's much harder because opera is like, this is your character, this is your costume, this is your wig, this is what you
These are
say.
the people that
It's
you
so
play against. You sing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the story is much more set. Whereas in art song, you have to work at it more. I think in communicating to an audience. So
Hmm.
I think because of my undergraduate, I adore recital work. Still, I mean, I used to before COVID, but I love recital work. I think it's such a pure way of connecting with an audience that you don't get in opera. Because I feel like, in opera, and I'm sorry I'm going off topic, but
It's
whatever.
okay.
Here we go. Here we go.
No, cover it
Um,
all. I want to hear it.
yeah, in opera is similar to watching TV, right? The people on TV are doing their thing, and I happen to be watching it, which is what happens in opera. But in recital, the lights are up, you can see everyone, and it's such a reciprocal experience that you just don't get in opera. Like you can see people's reactions, you
Hmm.
can see their smiles, you can, to me it's much more, I feed off the audience a lot more
More of an
inside of
intimate experience, right?
her. Exactly. So, so I adore both. I would never give up either if I could choose. Um,
So you don't have a favorite, you love both.
yeah,
Or
I mean,
are
I
you leaning
love,
more towards the song, art song?
you know what? Having said all that, probably I prefer opera because of the collaboration,
Yeah.
because you hang out with people and opera people are fun and you go out after and you do whatever and you meet people, so
Yeah.
that's the fun part of it. And like staging, I think probably staging is my most fun time. It's like when you're discovering the most and you're the most at ease and you do your best singing probably. Shh,
Yeah.
don't tell. And we're gonna edit that out. No, I'm just kidding. um, yeah, but anyways, so that is me distracting everyone and saying, so finished, did my master's in opera, went to Juilliard and did the opera school, and then after that, I did a bunch of young artist programs. Got heard by a manager at a young artist program, and he started representing me there, and then just get sent out on auditions. My first gig was with Atlanta Opera. I sang Eurydice in Orfeo and Eurydice.
Oh,
So
love.
that was my first contract that I ever got, which was cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Love that role.
it's beautiful. It's a
Beautiful.
beautiful thing, and I don't remember it at all. I mean, I remember the music somewhat, but I could not sing it for you right now. So there you go.
But that Orfeo aria is like one of my
Beautiful,
favorite. It's so gorgeous.
beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very cool how you got to that place
Yeah.
and so then from there your managers just kept finding you
Yeah, I mean, so it's
doing some different.
between, it's like auditions and then and hopefully the best thing is for like opera companies to say, "Oh, we liked her in this role, let's hire her back for this one." Or
Yeah,
a conductor works with you at this company and says, "I'm about to do this role somewhere else. I
right.
think you should get hired here." I mean, that's ideal. If I could never audition again, that would be my
You don't love
chosen.
auditioning. It's not your thing. You don't love. That's the pressure. There's lots of pressure.
And it's also like extremely artificial
Mhm.
because you know, you take the same amount of time and effort to get ready for an audition as you do for an opera, really.
Mm.
You're warming up and you do your face and you put on
Yeah,
the outfit.
put your
And then,
best out there.
yeah. And then with an opera, you sing and people are like, ah. With, with an audition, you finish and they say, thank you.
Thank
And
you,
then
and now
you
you
walk
make
out
your
of the room and
yes.
you kind of melt a little bit and you're just like, wait, was that good? Did they hate it? When they wrote that thing, when I sang that note, was it okay? It's
Yeah,
definitely like,
like emotional kind of.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally. And I find it, and then you don't get that give back that you get in performance,
right.
and
Right.
so it's just exhausting.
I can understand that. I've done some
Yeah,
of that myself, and it's been, yeah,
of
I get it.
course.
The process, crazy.
Yeah.
But good for you for putting yourself out there. That takes a lot of courage and, you know,
Yeah.
determination and
Yeah. I think that, there are a few opera singers that like shoot straight to the top, and that's great for them. But I think most opera singers just have to grind, you know? You have to continually put yourself out there and be like, "You want me," and they're like, "No," and then you're like, "You want me," and then the person's like, "Okay, sure, I want you,"
well,
So
your career has taken you all over the place, though. You've been all over. This is just
yeah,
awesome. You've seen a lot of the world through your voice, which is
it's a super great way of traveling the world
how
because
awesome is that?
people pay for your flights and your hotel, and it's really great. You get to see cool stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally great.
Any place you've loved being like traveling and seeing the most for or
You know
stands
what's
out?
interesting right now because of having a whole year of not traveling?
Yeah.
Except for a minor blip in October, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
I miss Hong Kong. I
Hong
miss Hong Kong
Kong.
so
Oh,
badly.
nice. Hong
I loved I loved singing there. I loved the city, and I think Europe is the most charming place ever. But
Yes.
Hong Kong is so culturally different that I just loved it. Like I
Oh,
love just observe. I am a sort of like a culture nut, and I love observing culture, and I love the differences, and I love being like, wow, that's so different. How cool is that?
hmm.
It's great in Hong Kong.
Guess we'll have to
Dim
go one
sum,
day.
like dim sum every day,
Oh,
dim sum.
and you love that.
And
Yeah.
yeah, the opera company was great there, and yeah, it was just a very happy memory. So right now I miss Hong Kong. There you
Oh, I miss traveling
go.
anywhere.
Anywhere, exactly.
Anywhere. Just
I'll
put
go
me on a
anywhere.
plane somewhere.
My sister just wrote a message the other day, and it's minus 39 Celsius, which is probably almost the same in Fahrenheit. They meet up at minus 45. But anyways, minus 39 Celsius. And she's like, who wants to come visit? And I was like, I do. I don't even care. I just want to go somewhere.
Oh my gosh. I feel you. I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, did you have a favorite opera singer growing up, or just who inspired you?
When I was a younger singer, I loved Dawn Upshaw and Barbara Bonney. That was
Oh,
like, they were like
yes.
my jam.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the first opera arias I sang was Laurie from the Tenderland.
Oh, yes.
And I listened to Dawn Upshaw's version over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, So yeah, for sure when I was younger, those two women, yeah, just really excellent musicians,
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's probably them.
And yeah.
Older, you change opinions, but yeah.
Now,
But I mean,
anybody now that you listen to a lot or that you.
okay, this is a totally weird thing, but I am so obsessed with Pavarotti right now, which is
Yeah.
just gonna sound bizarre.
No.
But like,
Hey.
I feel like listening to him is a voice lesson. It's a
Oh,
voice lesson on like finding that initial support in your singing and just spinning it out for your whole line. And I listened to him the other day and I was like, oh my goodness, you can just hear it. He's like with his singing all the time, and I was like, yeah. So
yeah.
right now Pavarotti, but I have this favorite recording of Pavarotti and Franny singing Bohème, which I will forever be in love with.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and I remember listening through Act One, and Pavarotti sings "Che gelida manina," and I was like, that is incredible. Like, who would want to sing after that? And
Mm.
then Franny sings "Mi chiamano Mimi," and I was like, Franny does. I was like, it's just the most stunning thing.
I've listened to
It's
that
so beautiful.
many
Yeah.
times. So beautiful.
Yeah. So that is something I will like. I rarely listen to opera because there's music in my brain all the time.
Mhm.
That is an opera that I'll just put on because it makes me happy, and the
Yeah.
singing is so good. So yeah.
You ever have a hard time quieting your mind before going to sleep when you're like studying till late hours and you're like,
Yeah.
and you're like, you can't stop the music?
Yeah, yeah. And if I ever if I have like an opera coming up or whatever, and I think, oh, I'm just gonna run some rest in my brain and until I fall asleep, doesn't work. My
Yeah.
brain is like, and we're awake now,
Yeah.
So I listen to like podcasts and audiobooks a lot because,
Mm.
yeah, my brain can ignore it, whereas
Sure.
my brain
Yes.
can't ignore music.
Do you listen to one of those podcasts that like helps you fall asleep because it's so boring? Do you like ever listen to those like really boring podcasts? Like,
No, I don't,
actually
but I
do.
know them. I listen to like, it's funny. I will listen to audiobooks that actually I'm enjoying, and then I'll wake up because as I'm going to sleep, and then I wake up in the morning, I'll be like, ah, dang, I gotta rewind it because I don't know what happened. I've got to like go back half an hour because I just fell asleep.
That's good. Sleeping
Yeah,
well, we want that.
yeah, we do want that. Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
And so I know you were performing so much before all this happened, this pandemic happened. And then life just kind of stopped. Like your career and things just kind of went on a pause,
Yeah.
long pause. And so how has that affected you How has it affected you in your life and your everything? Just tell us
Yeah.
about what life has been like during COVID.
Yeah. I would say emotionally it's been terrible and great, if that makes sense. Um, because I think there's nothing like having to stop that really makes you realize where you're at emotionally as a person, and the stuff that you think about yourself, and where you're at with your career, where you're like, but like where your heart's at and where your brain's at. And yeah, I mean, I think I had several months of it's just like looking at myself and being like, oh my goodness, I actually believe that. Wow, like, okay, where does that come from? And like, what
Right.
should I do about that? And let's journal a little bit and see how I feel. And so I mean, of course it's been hard. Of course it's been hard. It's been hard for everyone who has before been out singing. But I would say it's been really good. It's been really good. Um, and the time, like the cozy, which I'm sure we'll eventually talk about, that I did in October, I've literally never had 6 months to work on a role. I just haven't had time. You
Yeah.
don't have that much time normally. But that was all I had to do.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay. And I honestly thought they were going to cancel it because, why wouldn't they? Everything was getting canceled. So when things shut down in March, the only thing I had coming up that hadn't been canceled yet was this gig in October.
Wow.
And so I felt like I learned so much about singing because I slowed down,
Hmm.
because I had time. So I was practicing, 5, 6 days a week for several hours a day because I had time. And I was really like listening to this. And I don't mean this listening, I mean like
Yeah.
feeling what was going on here, and like, no, that was too tight. We can approach this in a freer form. Let's do it more freely. Let's just practice it. And to the point that when I got closer to the gig, I mean, I had sung it through for 6 months, but I wasn't memorized, because my memorizing happens when I just sing stuff through, which I do a lot before a role, because,
Right.
3 weeks before a role, you're like, I gotta sing this. So you
Yeah.
just sing, 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 and then you're like, oh, it's memorized. Whereas this, I'd worked so meticulously and slowly on the role, that I felt really vocally so excited to sing it, so great. But I was like, I'm not memorized at all, you know? Um, but they flew us out early. So I did a lot of walking and listening to the opera and seeing if I could say the words at the right time with my character. I did that for like a week before we started rehearsals. And it was fine. It was fine. But I've never had that experience
Hmm.
before, because yeah, I just haven't had time to work that slowly. And I was like, I should always spend 6 months on a role
Oh
before the
yeah,
show.
if you had that luxury, wow.
Man, it was so great, so great.
But I'm sure it was like, in you, like so much more in you
Yeah,
when you're
yeah, so much more in you than, yeah, than other times. I mean, there's the role like the Countess, which I have sung in
yeah,
9 productions.
your yeah.
And so that one, like, you could say you're gonna fly here tomorrow and sing it, and it's fine. It would just
Okay.
come out. And like, I don't even care the cuts. You can do whatever cuts you want. I just can sing it, you
Yeah.
know. But like that was my first Fior di Leggi, and to feel that sort of settled with that beast of a woman was
Whoa.
great. It was really great. Yeah. So.
Wait, do you have a clip of that performance or something that you
I
could share?
don't. I
Oh.
have. I know, it's so sad.
That's sad,
Uh,
but do you have something that we can I want everybody listening to experience you and
okay.
into something you've done maybe during this time. Have you done something else during this time?
I did. So, um, I figured to myself, all of this work recently, all of this work that I've done vocally, I want to do some new recordings of myself singing, because I think I sing better than I did a year ago when we were actually allowed to go outside.
Yeah.
And I also thought, I think it's going to be a long time before we're in a room auditioning for people.
Right.
So I did just I did a recording in a big old church, me and a pianist and my iPhone with a nice microphone. You know, nice microphones, they make a difference
Yes.
now. So this, what I want to play for you is me singing the letter scene from Eugene Onegin by Tchaikovsky. Now, this letter scene is like 11 minutes long. This is just the aria proper. So this is like 5 minutes, I think, which is
Okay.
good for everyone. But the whole scene, I've been working on it forever because it's just fantastic.
Oh,
Um, but the short thing is, she meets Onegin at a party. In good opera fashion, she's automatically in love. She goes home from the party and she writes him a letter and she pours out all of her feelings to him. And she basically says to him, are you going to be my guardian angel or are you going to be my tempter? Is all of this just silly? Am I delusional? And then she's like, no, I give all of myself to you, of course. And then it's really interesting because she gets past that poetic part, and then she says, "Okay, I'm finishing the letter now. I feel like flushed and embarrassed, and but you know what? I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna send it anyways," which I think is so approachable for us because we've. How many of us have sent an email if it's about love or can you please hire me for this job and be like,
and you're
should
like,
I
oh,
just send it, you know? So
never do
exactly,
that.
exactly. So here we go.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, and if we can figure out how to do this correctly, it will be a minor miracle. Oh, I think we've done it. Can you see
Wow,
it?
that was smooth.
I'm a professional. Here we go. služenim u korak. Страшно перечесть, следами сроком замираю. Но мне порой ваша честь изменяет семья
Brava.
Thank you.
So beautiful. That's so hauntingly beautiful. Wow.
The music's incredible.
You're so in what you're doing. Like
I
completely in it.
Oh, thank you.
Just
Oh, I'm still. What's going on?
there's more?
Oh, that's cozy.
Oh,
Okay, I think we did it.
did it?
I was so proud of myself of being a fabulous Zoom professional, but apparently I just failed.
So it's like a little bit of like a, I don't know, an
That was my
exit.
play out. That was my play out.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Nicely done. So really, like your Russian is like flawless. I mean, I don't know my Russian diction that well. It was years ago that I studied it, but you sound Russian. You
Yeah,
sound
right? That is half the battle.
huh?
It's half the battle.
Right.
I think, like, I love languages. I think they're super interesting. The culture that goes with it, and languages, and all that sort of stuff. And I'd love to sing Tatiana, but I also feel like I'm not Russian, right? So, and Russian is a big hurdle, but
Right.
I figure if I can show someone that I can actually have a handle of the language in an audition, then I'm like, but I feel like it's one of those roles that you can't be like, maybe they'll hire me for Tatiana. I'm like, no, I have to prove I can sing Tatiana, and then
You
they'll be
proved
like,
it.
oh, maybe we'll hire you. You know?
No,
Yeah,
you sound Russian to me.
cool. I'll take it.
Yep. No, but really, it was great. It was beautiful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for sharing that.
What?
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, pleasure. Of
So much
course.
emotion and beauty.
It's good music Mr. Tchaikovsky wrote.
Yes. Oh, yes. He wrote quite a lot of wonderful things. So, and you were a teacher as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about that before we go because I wanted to just touch on that because you are a fabulous teacher, and I know that for a fact because I had called you maybe a few months ago during this pandemic. And I'm like, I am feeling a little rusty. My technique, I haven't been focusing on my classical technique in a while. Wanted to check in, and I felt like I was like, she is the lady for me. She's the teacher.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I loved teaching you. We should do it again.
That was fun. It was
Such a talent. Um, yeah, teaching's been fabulously interesting. Um, I thought because up until about 3 years ago, I've been only in rehearsals on my feet all day, that I was like, how can I sit with my rear end in a chair for like 8 hours in a day? How can I do that? Like, I will lose my mind. But I just love my biggest thing is there isn't one way to sing. There are principles of good singing that has to be present. But I'm like, there isn't one technique that you can force everyone into, if you know what I mean. And so for me, the greatest joy is to like work with someone and sort of figure out how their brain works and how they think of singing and like going on a journey with them to see what they can discover. And I always say to my students, whose responsibility is it for you to become a good singer? Is it my responsibility or is it your responsibility? So yeah, and I give them that talk because I just wish that someone had given me that talk
Yeah.
of like these are your lessons. You're paying me for a service. I don't own you.
Right.
And I want you to be able to take onus of this. So if I'm explaining something, because that's the thing, I explain singing to you the way I understand it, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to understand it because we we both have brains, right? But we're different, you know. Our brains work differently. Our voice mechanism is different. It's, you know, and that's the thing that I think is so fascinating. So sitting in a room hours a day is like delving into people's brains and seeing how to like turn them on and to excite them and to, you know, and it doesn't always work, but when it works, it's fantastic, you know. So I really encourage students to like ask a lot of questions. If you don't get it, say, I don't get it. Can you explain it a different way? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can. I don't have only one way of explaining something.
Right. By asking questions,
Yeah, yeah.
it teaches the teacher how to teach that person. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that what you said is exactly it. That for me, I allow each student to teach me how to teach them, if that makes sense.
It
And
does.
so like they'll sing through a phrase and I'll be like, "Yes, that worked. What of the 8,000 things I said to you before the phrase, what clicked with you?" So that the next time around, I can say, "What makes sense to you?" You
Right.
know, as opposed to like, "This is how I teach,"
Right.
which I don't have that.
I think so
Um,
many teachers are, this is how I teach. It's very mechanical, it's very their technique, and there's nothing else besides that.
right.
And that's an inflexible, that's just not, I feel like a good teacher is open-minded like
Yeah,
you.
I
And
think you're absolutely right.
and
Yeah.
just,
And I mean, if you just stick two humans next to each other and you like ask them what the weather is, they're going to give you drastically different answers, even though the weather is ideally one thing, you know, because we all see the world differently. Our brains work differently. And then you put the two people next to each other, one's going to be like 6'5" and the other one's going to be 5'1". Of course, their voices are going to be different. Of course, they're going to approach singing differently. And so I love the teaching and I love the discovery because it's as much a self-discovery for the student as it is for me as well. I just think it's super fun. It's really, really fun. So, and when all of the singing jobs went away and I could still teach, I I was like, wow, I'm super thankful for this job. Really, really thankful.
and that you're so good at teaching it over FaceTime or Zoom that you have the
Yeah.
ability to still teach voice in this capacity.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning process for sure. I think it requires me, unlike this, to shut up more because, you know, in a lesson, in a room with someone, I would, my way of working with students was to have them sing a lot, and I would just like sort of yell encouragements in the rests, or I'd sort of talk along with them while they were singing. And my students, they know me, they just keep singing, right?
Right.
Don't have that luxury anymore on Zoom, right?
You gotta wait for the pop, like wait for them to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Can't touch and feel like their rib cage or like what they're doing, right, with their breath.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's the
Are you
other
very
thing.
hands-on in your lessons usually?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Well, I never used gestures when I was teaching, hardly ever. Like I would use physical movement, but not so much physical like hand gestures like
Yeah.
this. You know, I'm doing this all the time.
Yeah.
And but because of on Zoom, I can't touch them anymore. I'm not in the room with them. And so they just do gestures all day long. It's funny. And it's funny for me to observe how it's changed because I didn't really make students do that. But yeah, we adapt, right? The world
Yeah.
it moves fast.
And you've had many different teachers throughout your singing career, right? You've
I
tried
have,
this person, this, but you kind of now you've seen so many different ways and approaches to singing
yeah.
that you've just cultivated all these ways to help people learn how to.
Yeah, and I think that probably we are all singers are a conglomeration of everyone they've worked with,
Yeah.
the good and bad things, right? Like a lot of the sort of overall psychology stuff that I just said is a reaction to what I felt like how I was taught by teachers. Is like
Yeah.
I I want to give the power to my student. I don't want to be in the power position as the teacher. Um, But you know, and I probably do you know Doc White? I studied with him after Juilliard. He now is a Juilliard teacher. He did the best thing for me ever, and I wish to do that to all my students. Um, he came and he heard me sing in London, actually, which
Mm.
was really nice. He flew to
Okay.
London to hear me sing. Um, and after it, he wrote me a message and he said, "You don't need me anymore."
Wow.
He said, "You know how to sing." And what he wanted to do is he wanted to build into singers the ability to fix themselves. So
Mm.
you're on the road, you're going from gig to gig. If the voice sort of is broken, he wanted the singer to be able to have the capacity within them to be able to fix it,
Yeah.
which was so great. And he said to me, of course, after he said, you know, "You don't need me anymore," he said, "I'm always here for you whenever you want to listen." And I was like so moved by that because he wasn't saying, "I don't want to teach you anymore."
Right.
But he was saying, like, "I'm cutting your strings. Go
Wow.
be a singer. And when you're home, let's have a lesson."
Yeah,
You know?
fly away, fly, and then, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And that was like the greatest thing I think that any teacher has ever given me, actually.
that's,
And so that's probably my biggest teaching philosophy is to give all singers the ability to stand on their own 2 feet and not
hmm.
have to run to the teacher all the time.
Yeah. But if you are a professional singer, it is okay to go and check in. And it's
Yeah,
if you feel that that's something
yeah, yeah,
that will help you.
yeah. I've said to my singers, several singers, like if I do my job right, I will put myself out of a job as a teacher. You know, like
Yeah.
if I'm
You
doing the
want to
right
give
thing.
your students that self-reliance and that self-instruction. And
Yeah,
that, yeah,
that is my biggest thing that I want them to have.
very
Because
cool.
I don't think I had it when I was their age, and so I'm like, you need to have this. It will save you so much time.
Well, you're a wonderful teacher. I could even tell in a couple sessions I had with you. That was fun.
Thanks. We had fun.
It was fun. This has been so much fun. Do you want to share anything else with us before we go? Is there anything?
No, except I'm like, no.
A message for young singers starting their careers during
Yeah.
this time? I don't know. Yeah, what were we gonna say? What were we gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it's so cool that you're doing these talkie thingies, and it's really great to catch up and to, you know, even this is a process of self-reflecting, of like someone saying, "You've done this, you've been this," and you're like, "Have I? Oh, cool." You know, you're like,
I did that.
"Oh, you get to know yourself through someone else's voice," which is always, yeah, which is always nice. It's really nice. Yeah, for young singers. Um, just say keep going. If
Keep
you love it, do it. And oh, can I share you the other really great thing? A pianist at Juilliard, piano teacher. Of course, I'm going to forget his name. Oh, it's a bad end to the story. Anyways, this was a few years after I had graduated, and I saw him, and he was like, "How's the career going?" And I was like, "Well, you know,
hmm.
sometimes great, sometimes less great, you know."
Yes.
And he said to me, "Well, you didn't want to just shoot straight to the top, did you?" And I was like, yes." And he said, "Because you know the medical definition of a straight line." And he said, basically, a straight line means you're dead if you're hooked up to a heart monitor. And he was like, "It's this that gives your art its life and its
Oh,
passion." And I was like,
yeah.
right?
I think got chills just listening to that. That's so
Yeah,
true.
I got chills telling it again. And I was like, wow. So I think I have been gifted with those moments of people really like speaking such phenomenal truth into to where I'm at. And you can just carry those things always. So yeah, that's what I would say. You
Those
don't have to listen to everyone's voice. You have to find out the voices that are the ones that have the right to speak into your lives. And when someone says something that good, hold on to it. Because this career is like incredibly wonderful and incredibly hard, but I'd say it's worth it. I'd say
totally
it's worth it.
rewarding. And I'd say it's worth it too because we all can enjoy your beautiful singing and your beautiful presence. So
Thank you, Miss
thank you
Talya.
for sharing. So
Yeah,
Catherine,
pleasure, really pleasure.
yes. And thanks for coming on my show tonight. So thank you. And thank you all for watching and for getting to know my friend. Um, so thanks, Catherine. And I wish you luck. Are you working on a project right now at the moment? Or are you
Yeah, I'm
horizon for you?
doing recording with a composer, which it's kind of exciting. It is exciting. It's
Yes.
David Leisner. He has this set. I think he wrote it in 1989, so it's been around for a while, but it's never been professionally recorded. So we're gonna record it in a studio, do the whole shebang, which is really fun. It's a set of 10 pieces called Confiding, and it's written from the viewpoint of a woman. Although it's 10 different poems by not 10 different composers. I think it's maybe 5 or 6 different composers. Emily Dickinson gets in there several times. That's the thing. But it's all women poetry, and it has this sort of arc to it. So it's a really special set, I think. Um, so I'm looking forward to that.
Where can
And
we
then,
see that somehow? Is there some way we can watch that once it's released, or is that
yeah, I think he's probably going to release the CD. So CD, listen to me. How old am
or
I? Like
listen to
100?
it?
Yeah, no. So I think that's happening. I think in June. So
Okay,
there's that.
very cool.
And then I also just feel like I'm just gonna learn Manon because I should. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
yeah, you have some time now. You're on a pause. Get to know it well. Yes, I love
So there you go.
goals.
It's a lot of like putting hope out in the future.
Yes.
Like do the work now for the
Yeah, do
future,
it. And
whenever the future comes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good for you. Do you have a website we can find you? You can listen to your audio clips, or do you have anything how we can
Yeah.
find you online? Maybe I'll put it in the
Yes.
chat or
If you search for Katherine Whyte on YouTube, Katherine Whyte Soprano, there's lots of videos. But my website, I'm like, what is my website? I think it's just katherinewhite.com. That would make sense, katherinewhite.com. And just in case we think white is with an I, it's not. It's Whyte, just to confuse people. So
yes.
there you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you, Talia.
so much. Mwah. Best of luck.
Thank you.
And everyone tune in with me next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. on Tune In with Talia. Have a good night.